I remember the first time I had a beer, everyone was like, "Oh, like spitting it out, that's gross," and I'm like, "Well, yeah, it doesn't taste good," but and then I drank, and then all of a sudden it was gone, and I was the first one done. I loved that it made me feel like I didn't have to hide the person that I was. May 2nd of 2023, I drank myself to death.
This is Hard Knocks Talks.
What's up, Will? How are you?
Hey, how we doing? How we doing?
I'm doing
Feeling
well,
good.
man.
Feeling good. Yeah.
First of all, shout out to Brad, Sober Motivation Podcast, for connecting us. You're a
Oh
past
yeah, check it
guest.
out.
Yeah.
I am, yeah. So I was episode, I forget the number, it might have been like 114 or something like that. But if you search it, it is under Will's journey to the brink. I definitely have a lot more stories and a lot more interesting things that I didn't really get into for time's sake. So
Yeah. So I get all the
yeah,
things. Haha,
you get
Brad.
all the great, you
I
get all
get
the
all
good
the good
stuff.
things that he forgot to tell you about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, is there anything that you want to say before we really jump into it?
Yeah, sure. So before I start, my story is unfortunately a cautionary tale. And when I say cautionary tale, I mean it in the strongest sense possible. So I grew up around the Boston area. I had a normal childhood. I'm one of four boys. We're all athletes. We all played hockey. We all played, baseball, football, lacrosse. You name it. We played it. My father was a huge proponent that we get into athletics at a young age. He was he was a Hall of Fame hockey coach himself in the Massachusetts Hall of Fame. Yeah. So I had high standards from the jump. He always wanted the best of me and all my brothers as well. And with that comes, the responsibility of showing up, producing, getting good grades, all that good stuff that would, like I said, constitute happy adolescent years. But what happened at age 14 is like most adolescent boys do, we find ourselves grabbing beers out of like friends, parents, fridges, and it goes from like one beer, then all of a sudden we're taking like a 6-pack, and then we're just taking like 30 packs and stuff, and like going in the woods, partying. It was really fun at the beginning because it was so new, so different, so interesting. What then I realized that, oh man, this is going to be a huge problem. I just knew it. I knew it like with the clarity of like seeing the future almost. I remember the first time I had a beer, everyone was like, "Oh, like spitting it out, that's gross," and I'm like, "Well, yeah, it doesn't taste good," but and then I drank, and then all of a sudden it was gone. And I was the first one done, and I looked around my group of buddies, and they looked at me like, "Whoa," and I was like, "Yeah, I was pretty good, huh?" And everyone's like, "Yeah, man, that was awesome! Like, I can't believe you crushed that." And then I just fell in love with the feeling of it from 14. I loved that it made me feel like I didn't have to hide the person that I was. And when I say that, I mean all the things that I was insecure about, unsure of. I didn't want, maybe I don't say that. All that filter, like many know, it kind of just goes away. So I go to high school, it's fine. I'm, 3-sport athlete, a decent student, like B's, some A's, that kind of thing. I'm well liked amongst teachers, staff, whatever. I go to college. I pick a college outside of my state, a big one, like one of the biggest in New Hampshire, and it had this association with partying.
Is that why you chose it?
And that's why that was one of the reasons, probably the biggest reason. A funny little story that I remember is I get to my freshman year dorm. I remember being like, "All right, boys, like who brought the beers? Like, let's go." And then they were like, "Where do you get beer?" I'm like, "What do you mean, where do you get beer? Like, let's just go get it. I have a fake ID." I had a fake ID, of course, because when you're the youngest of four boys, there's a lot of friends of your older brothers, and sometimes you'll find someone that looks just enough like you. Those are the good days. So that continues until junior year. I figure, you know what? I want to get out of school here. I want to go to study abroad. And we picked Australia because Australia is 1, beautiful, 2, it's beach vibes, and 3, it's they're pretty lenient with like their like underage drinking because their drinking age is 18. So
Oh yeah.
so it was great. So it was a perfect combination, I thought. I go over there, have a blast. I go from drinking like just on weekends at my undergrad school at New Hampshire to absolutely crushing it every day. And it was fun. It really was fun. A lot of the times people will tell you, the drinking's all bad. No, not in the beginning. The beginning was actually very enjoyable and really fun.
I agree. I mean, I had some great times drunk. There's that saying, and I bring this up every once in a while. Every time the conversation goes this way, it's my worst day sober is still better than my best day drunk. And to me, that's a lie. I had some great days drunk, and on my worst day sober, like I didn't want to be around anymore.
I know a lot of people who agree with us on that one. So okay, moving on. So I graduate college, everything's fine. I'm now 22. I go, what do I want to do? Well, you know what? My dad seemed to have a great life. He was a teacher and a coach, and he seemed to be around for us, and I want to be around for my kids. So I'm gonna pick this profession. So I jump into teaching. I wanted to be a history teacher because that was my interest. That was like my passion. I loved history. I loved all my history classes. And so I go there. They're like, yeah, you can't teach history, but you can be a permanent building substitute, which means you just live in the building, work there, the whole year, and you get paid a salary, but the salary is, terrible. Because of that, I started to get discouraged because I didn't have a lot of money, and my friends had way better jobs, and they were just going out and doing things, and I was trying to keep up and hold my place socially with them. That's when drinking really kind of took off. So I'm now in my early 20s to mid 20s, and I started noticing problems start coming up. And when I say problems, I mean I would forget things, I would black out, I would say things that were hurtful and then forget about them and then have to apologize for it, like the following time I saw that person or people. I literally would change. I would never think of putting beers on my friends' tabs without them knowing, and then all of a sudden getting the repercussions because of it. I would sneaky, just do sketchy things that were just things I would just never do when I was sober. I would never take advantage of anyone's friendships, those kind of things. My friends, I remember very distinctly sitting me down, looking me right in the eye and being like, we can't keep seeing you, pass out like that. Fall asleep at an ATM. I did that one time. I remember I felt like I would get so drunk at the pregame that I was basically like a liability if if my friends took me out. And I would kind of just brush it off, but it got to the point where my friends had to sit me down and say, Will, we already love you, man. You don't need to pretend to be cool and get so so drunk to be our friend. You're already our friend. Cut it out. In so many words.
Yeah.
And I heard them, but I didn't really hear them because I continued to keep doing what I was doing. Mm-hmm. To the point where I eventually made enough mistakes and I pissed off enough people in my group of friends that they just didn't want anything to do with me. I was nasty. I would get drunk, fall asleep, over drink, make a fool out of myself, embarrass myself in front of friends that they were bringing over, so things like that. And it would all stem from an insecurity of just wanting to fit in, wanting to be cool, wanting to be funny, wanting to be liked. That's just all it was. I didn't know where to go. And what happens when you don't know where to go? You look for the easiest way out. And the easiest way out for me was to hit it harder. So I started drinking really heavily just to numb the pain of the guilt and shame that I had. I just got so lost, so confused. And I wish I had that moral compass to sit down in that moment when they sat me down and told me that I was being, they were having issues with our friendship. I was too selfish, honestly, if we're being honest. I was just too selfish, and I was just too young, naive to even imagine that the repercussions would be what they would be eventually. So now I'm on my own, and
Still in
there's, I
school?
think, still in school, still doing the sub job. The sub job was easy enough where I could get away with drinking and like not having to really worry about, not doing that well at work, because no one can really see that, because you're just jumping from classroom to classroom, basically just collecting worksheets and making sure everyone signed in,
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. I wanted to be a teacher. And like I said earlier, to be a teacher in Massachusetts, it's very difficult. The tests are really hard. So I would take the test, bomb it, not study, get mad at myself because I failed it when I didn't study. And then I would take it again, fail it. And then I think I took it like a third time and I failed it. And within those like 3 years I was subbing. And I'm like, this is like worthless. Like I got to find another way into teaching. So I left public schools, and that's when I started teaching in private schools all around Boston. And then something clicked. I don't know what it was, whether it was just, I just felt like maybe giving up. I don't have, I have no, I felt like I didn't have any place in the world. I didn't have any one I could, because I had no core group of guy friends, which is like so important when you're, growing up. So I started off drinking Canadian Club because one, it was cheap, and two, the bottles, were really big. It was like
Mm-hmm.
$20 for a handle. And so I would drink one of those like a week. Okay. Still maintaining my job, still doing okay. Things weren't getting better. I was having a hard time finding any relationships, girlfriends or anything like that. And then I got more frustrated, and then I like stopped even studying for the test that I was supposed to be studying for, and then I started really drinking. So around like 27, I went from drinking a handle of Canadian Club a week to like one every 3 days to one every 2 days to I was drinking a handle. Oh God, I was drinking a handle of of whiskey or rye, whatever you want to call it,
Mm-hmm.
every day. God, I must have smelled. I must have stunk, and I think I was getting like looks from people around my work, and
Mm-hmm.
that's when I was like, I got to figure a different alternative out. And this is like the mind of an alcoholic. Instead of addressing the fact that, oh, you're drinking too much, like you're gaining weight, like you don't look good, you don't look healthy, like your skin looks like papery. Nope. Now it's time to find an alcohol alternative that does not smell so bad. And where do I go? I find vodka. So I would, do some really, really sad stuff. I would take the bottle right on a Monday, fill up bottles like Gatorade bottles and Poland Spring bottles, because they it looked like water. It just did. So I could get away with like just putting one in, like in my backpack and like whatever, and waiting for the very end of the school day to just get in my car and have that first drink. And then once I got home, I would drink from like 4 in the afternoon all the way to 2 in the morning, like every night.
You mentioned that there were points where you tried to make friends, you tried to find girlfriends and stuff like that. Now, if you're
Mhm.
at this point and you're working during the day and you're just drinking your face off at home at night, like what else are you doing? Like, are you finding your way to the bar? Are you finding like where are you
No,
trying
that's
to
the
meet
thing. Like,
people?
right. So that's the thing. That's like the weird part of it all. I was so sad and shamed that I didn't even want to go out in public, because God forbid I would see someone that I knew and they would see me and I looked terrible. Number one. And two, like if I did see like an old friend, it would be really awkward because I would probably be like pretty bombed already. And then they'd be like, what do you have like a problem? So I didn't even want people knowing I had like a problem. So I would shut myself out from the world. I would go hide in my room. Basically, that's all I did. I would hide in my room. I would put my laptop on my lap and just like watch just movies after movies after, I would watch like football games. And this is like when streaming was coming popular, so I could like watch pretty much anything I wanted to, and not feel guilty about it. Okay, so that was that was my life. Okay, up
Mhm.
until 28. Um, Finally, I just like hit like a breaking point. I'm like, I'm like almost 30, man. Like I gotta do something. It's just like so embarrassing. I can't do anything. So I started going online and and like going out and making myself available to like date. So I finally meet my wife. She was an au pair from Brazil, and which already she's interesting and drop dead gorgeous. So I'm like, okay, I'm not messing this up. I'm going to cut
So
back my drinking. I'm going to
so you're a mess right at this point.
mess,
You're drinking a handle a
mess,
night, and
handle a night.
you land this like super attractive woman who's
Yes.
like doing well in life.
Yes. I don't know. I when I need to show up, I show up, and I kind of, when I met her, like we were talking, and then I started hitting the gym. I stopped drinking. Like I got myself together for that brief period of time during the early stages of dating. So you're wearing like two faces. That's the thing in active addiction. You're wearing so many hats, so to speak, that you forget which hat you put on before you left the house. And I would wear, I'd mask myself in different personalities, and the one that I was picking at the time apparently worked really well because she liked me a lot. We ended up dating, and then like it got really bad. So I was making enough money to help her out with rent, so we actually got our own place, and it was beautiful first apartment for us. It was like a huge milestone for me, and we're enjoying ourselves, so we're having a good time. But secretly, I'm still very addicted to alcohol. I can't get out of it. It's like it has its like claws in my soul. I just cannot break from it. So, but she's from a culture in Brazil where drinking and getting really messed up and like falling down is like just part of life anyway. So she didn't look at it as a problem just yet. It did become a problem when I would do things like I would forget everything. Like, and that would happen all the time, to the point where she got so frustrated. She's like, are you drinking like when I'm not here? And I was like, no, I would never do that to you. I would never do that to you. And I wish I admitted at that moment when she asked me point blank if I was, abusing alcohol. And I kept lying. I was still in denial. I didn't want to believe it yet, because I always thought the alcoholics were like the lowest of the low. They're weak people. They can't figure it out. Now in recovery, I couldn't be more wrong. So she would start finding, I would have stashes, like sneaky little spots all over my apartment. And eventually she found one, and she's like, what is this? Like, you're hiding alcohol? Like, what's going on here, Will? And I'm like, oh, well, I'm like, that was from a party, and that happened over and over and over again, to the point where I couldn't deny it anymore. So she was, she would get mad, just really mad, like throw like a fit. And then the fight would eventually, end, and then we'd be lovey-dovey again. But then it started to become a huge problem. I couldn't go out without, like, whatever we were doing, I had to just like pound like a fifth of vodka before we did anything, because I just couldn't do anything without booze in my system. It was like so surreal. I was like this normal person. I grew up great. Like I was an athletic dude. Like I had all these things going in the right direction, like supportive parents, everything. But I was just insecure and hopeless. That's how I felt. It got to the point where I lost my job. I didn't get fired, but I just wasn't doing enough to contribute to like being rehired, pretty much. It's a common thing that you'll notice in alcoholics. It's hard to hold down a job. And that's what happened. So I was like forced to do Uber, and you can't drink on Uber because that's the whole point of Uber. So people can drink and get in your car. So I'm like, okay, if I just do Uber, this will make me stop drinking. It worked and it didn't work. So at first it didn't work. I just wasn't doing Uber. I would like say I was, but I would just sit in my car, like on a side street, and just drink all day. And then like, go home, and she's like, how much you make today? I'd be like, oh, I made $100, but then I made $0.
You would find a side street, and you would just literally sit in your car,
Yes.
stare off into oblivion, and drink.
Yeah. That's how sad it was. I would make excuses just to, like, if I just got in my car and left, okay, well then he's in his car. He's doing work now. Okay. Like, she doesn't have to worry about me. Little did I was a street away, uncorking a fresh bottle, pouring it into water bottles, or like even like something like this or whatever, like just a big like Nalgene bottle, and hiding it, and then and it's just always having I would freak out if I didn't have it near me. So I would always like put bottles in places that I knew I was going to be near, just in case I needed to like run out and pound in the car, like pound like a bunch of vodka in the car. And I would do that for years, to the point where it was affecting my health. Like my wife could see it. So she's and my stomach was all messed up. I was like going to the bathroom strangely and like frequently, and it was, we don't need to get into that, but it was, it was very uncomfortable, and it was pretty terrible, to the point where I couldn't like even like make it like 2 hours without like having to be near a toilet. So my wife's like, why don't you go see what the doctors think? It might be like a GI issue. So I say, sure. Not thinking that the second that I got to the they have like the acute care center, so where it's pretty much the ER, but it's like in the building. So I go there, and the doctor, it was a nurse practitioner. He looked at me, right? He was around my age too. He goes, "Whoa, man, whoa!" And I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Do I have cancer or something?" He's like, "No, but like, how long have you been drinking?" And I'm like, I don't know, since I was like 14. And then I lied about how much I actually was drinking. I was drinking, a handle a day. I wasn't going to say that to a doctor. I mean,
that's a lot, man. Like, for anybody who might not know what a handle is, that's 66 ounces.
It is insane how
like,
much.
There's a 26. Most people know how big a 26 is. Then there's a 40. Then there's a 66. And then from there, it's like a Texas Mickey, which is ridiculous. So
it's crazy. Yeah. So back to, all right. So I go to the hospital. Doctor looks at me with like 2 seconds. She's like, how much are you drinking, honestly? And I said a lot, but I didn't say how much. He goes, okay, we're going to do some labs. Comes back with the labs. He notices that my ALT and AST labs, I'll get a little technical, but I'll explain what each thing is. So you have ALT enzymes and LST enzymes. And in this one very important test, it's called your bilirubin test. So your bilirubin is essentially the part of your liver that is showing doctors how well maintained your liver is, and how highly functioning is this liver that you have in your body. Mine was already cirrhosis, already half dead, no way of coming back really. But he did say if I go completely sober, there could be a chance. And I said, okay, great, I'll go sober. But right before I turned my back on him, he's like, whoa. He's like, well, wait 1 second. He goes, look at me. And he like took his like this thing, and he goes, just so you know, my man. He's like, just so you know, the fact that you're here right now is a strong indication that you will be back. So you must know what I'm saying to you is 100% serious. You will die if you continue living on with this lifestyle. And if you don't go sober completely and eat and change the way you're eating and change your habits and routines, it's going to be a very sad end of the road for you. So I said, okay. And I took him seriously, but not to nearly to the extent that I should have. So I left. I did 125 days sober. Boom, I did it. Wow, I couldn't believe it. I felt better. I was more productive at finding jobs and things like that, getting myself out there. My relationship improved immensely. And then I was listening to a hockey podcast, and one of the hosts was really promoting this one type of alcohol called Pink Whitney, which is like a pink lemonade mixed with vodka. And I'm like a huge pink lemonade guy. Like pink lemonade, anything, give it to me. And two, it's vodka, and I love vodka. So I was like, man, I was looking at I had my phone out. It was such a clear memory. I took my phone out. It said, Will, you have been sober 125 days. Like, celebrate. Balloons went out and everything. I was like, wow, man, 125 days. That's a long time. And I remember thinking to myself, I must, this is just something that got away from me, and clearly I have it under control. Like, I'm fixed. I'm fixed. Like the things that alcoholics tell themselves, like to reassure their own addictions, right? I'm fixed. So I remember I left work one day. I went to the Packy, as we call it here in Boston, picked up a handle. Picked up not a handle. I actually got the smaller bottle, like the 750 milliliter bottle.
Because you got this under control now. Yeah.
I got it under control, man. This is cake. I just did 125 days. I got this. And it was funny. Like, I knew what I was doing was wrong, because I was like being sneaky about it. Like I said, like someone's going to catch me. And I get it, put it in the bag, put it in my bag, drive home with it, and then I just like leave it in like a hidden area of the room. And I stare at it for like a week. I just kept staring at it. Like, this like little haunting demon in the corner of my room, just like looking at me like, come drink. I swear, like you'll have a better time this time. Yeah, it'll be fun this time. Like,
why don't you love me, Will?
And like not even like coming to terms with do you remember like the doctor and like your wife and like all these. Nope. Nope.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't remember. Just wanted the instant gratification, instant fun, instant feeling of relief. So I grabbed the bottle, I bring it up to my lips, and the first, like, it was like the most immediate, like clairvoyant memory process of like, what did I just do? Like, what did I just do? I cannot believe I just drank again. And then like I felt really guilty about it, and then I was like, well, you know, I did it, and then I just polished off the bottle, and that was it, man. That was like that was the beginning of the end. So I went. It just amazed me how easily it was to just fall back into old patterns, and it was embarrassing as hell because I would go into work and my skin. So what happens when you drink a lot? Your body physically changes. You get all bloated. You have all these, they call it ascites. It's like a fluid that can't be processed by your organs correctly. So especially your liver. So like nothing's getting filtered. Everything's building up. All these toxins going crazy. So my stomach was huge. It was like extended to the point where it looked like so weird because my face was still kind of relatively thin, but my stomach was huge. And my skin was just getting yellower and yellower and yellower. And my eyes were just like dark yellow. I sent you a couple of pictures of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember one of my students says, "Hey, Mr. G, you look like a Simpsons character," like as a joke. And then I sat there and I thought about the comment and I brushed it off like, haha, yeah, which one? Like Bart, Homer? But deep down, it killed me. It like shattered my soul. So and my wife was like considering leaving me. So I manned up. My wife was like, go to the hospital, check myself in. Did not leave. They kept me there. They're like, wow, okay. So they do blood labs on me, and clearly I didn't take their advice. And usually they don't have much patience for people in like that situation because I was there months before, and for the same exact reason. Only now it's there's no fixing this. There's no fixing it, like with like medicine and diet and abstinence from alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
So they do blood labs, and what comes up, my bilirubin is at like the highest it's ever been. It's like in the 30s or something. And like a normal male, it should be from like 0.6 to like 1.8. That's like where your range should be. So if you ever get blood labs done, like in the future, anyone, make sure you ask for a CBC test and look for the bilirubin at the very bottom and see what your levels are at, and your ALT and AST. We'll see what those are, because those are strong indicators that you're abusing alcohol to the point of no return. So, and they have this thing called a MELD score. So your MELD score is basically how high functioning is your liver and how much is it completely gone. So I had cirrhosis. I finally just admitted, okay, I have cirrhosis. Now what? Some people can have a MELD score of like, say, like 10 to like 15 to 20 and kind of get by without having to get a transplant. Mine was at 40. And guess what it goes up to? 40. I maxed out the MELD score. So the doctors, they go, oh my God, okay. Like they bring in like a whole team of people. They hook me up. They get IVs in me. It's like so uncomfortable. I'm getting like drained. I'm getting like paracentesis, which is like a drill. They stick into your stomach and they pump you out all the fluids that you cannot get out. And because of the abuse to my liver, my kidneys shut down as well. So when your kidneys can't produce, your kidneys are so important because they help you filter everything and keep the correct amount of blood, like the healthy blood cells, like running around your body in a normal, healthy way. And once those were shot, I was on dialysis. So if anyone doesn't know what dialysis is, it's absolutely brutal. It's 4 times a week for 4 hours every day. So you cannot work. You can't do anything except just exist in like a bed. It's like a chair that you lie kind of back on. And they hook you up with actually you can see the port still somewhere here. Where was it? Yeah, that's where the port See that? Oh, there you
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
That was my dialysis port right there. So that was in my body, and they were basically filtering the blood out of my system on every other day basis, just so I could like feel normal and not get so sick that I would die. It's intense. It's awful. It's the people in the room with you are just miserable because a lot of them are waiting for kidney transplants that will probably never come because of their age. So I felt guilty because I'm sitting next to these people, and mine's self-inflicted. Some of these people are just living their lives, and their kidneys just failed on them. So it's just a whole multitude of grief and shame and guilt. And so I get I try to get a liver transplant. My wife's helping me. My mother is helping me. My father is helping me. Like everyone's trying to help me, which is great. I had a great support team, and that's huge. And they said, okay, well, let's get you a liver. So I wanted to go get my liver at the hospital that's closest to me, and they were like, no, we're not doing that to you. And I'm like, why? They're like, well, we have a 6-month rule. You have to be 6 months sober, and I was not. So I was about like 4 because I was in the hospital for like 4 months up until I absolutely needed that liver, or I was going to die in 2 weeks. So so I had to call my wife and myself and my mom and dad. They all had to call across different parts of the country. And then this one really nice nurse at the hospital that wouldn't give me the liver actually recommended a colleague that she helped train to become a doctor at a hospital down in Western Mass here. So they were like, we'll take you, like, we'll fix you. Like, we're going to help you out. So, but you have to, it's not just like, we'll fix you. You have to like go through all these psychological tests, like prove to them that you'll never do this again. Cause they don't just give livers away. I mean, they're like worth $1 million. So you really have to put the work in. So I had to put a ton of work in. I had to do all these like stress tests and make sure my heart could handle it. And my body like could actually handle the liver going into me. And so they finally found a deceased donor. No one would ever give me their liver. And you can't give a whole liver. You have to give just like a half of a liver. That's what a liver transplant is from a living donor. But mine was so short. I needed a liver that was like working well and everything. So they find one. Took about a couple months. They find one. I go through surgery. It was brutal. It was like 12 straight hours of surgery. I went into the anesthesia sleep at like on a Monday morning or whatever, and I woke up on like a Thursday. Like, wow. And like I thought it was still Monday. Yeah. And you're so out of it, you come out of it, you're in a different dimension. So I wake up, there's all these complications. My kidneys weren't waking up, they weren't working. I had bile duct issues, is basically where like the fluid isn't properly like going out of your body in the way it should. So they need to actually hook up like a tube to your stomach so it pumps out all the excess fluids. I know, nice, right? That was really bad because once that happens, other complications are pretty likely to happen as well. So what happened was I was lying in bed, I was rehabbing from the liver transplant, and then all of a sudden another catastrophe happens. My colon burst. So my colon burst, all like the everything that was in my stomach just went all over my body. And when that happens, you go into septic shock. So septic shock, for anyone who isn't familiar with it, it's you completely lose who you are. Like your reality is just gone, and it's really scary. Like I was convinced I was dead. I thought I was in hell, and I ruined my life, and I ruined all of the friendships I ever had because I really did. So, so I'm in this like crazy, unbelievable like where am I phase. And then finally they're like, okay, the only way to fix him right now, we got to get an ileostomy hooked up to his stomach, and not worry about the colon right now. Let the colon heal. So for 6 months, I had to have an ileostomy bag attached to my stomach, and that's where I went to the bathroom, which was just awful. It's just a nightmare. Anyone that's ever had an ileostomy, God bless you, because it is truly a nightmare because you cannot sleep. You're always going to like step on, you're always going to like lean to the wrong direction. It's going to explode. It's just awful. It's just constant nightmare day after day, minute after minute, honestly. So I'm dealing with that. I'm in dialysis, blah, blah, blah. It's just terrible, horrible situation. So finally 6 months go by. They're ready to do they call it a takedown surgery, where they actually take your colon into your stomach and they like sew it back up. That worked. Thank God. So now that that's over, they're like, okay, well, your kidneys aren't working still, so you still have to stay on dialysis. So I was on dialysis for another full year while I waited to get on the transplant list for a kidney. So I finally find a deceased donor. I get a kidney. They actually you only need one, and they actually just leave the old one. They actually just leave it there, and then it just shrinks. People don't know that. They think they take it out and like throw it out. So I actually have 3 kidneys, one only working, and that one isn't even mine. So you come out of it, and like all of a sudden you start feeling better. Like all my hair was gone. It was all these complications and everything, but then you start looking better. You start looking like more yourself. You start feeling better. I mean, it's just a brutal process. Like all those months and just leading up to the kidney transplant itself was just exhausting. Couldn't work, couldn't do anything. Dialysis, awful. Okay, so kidney transplant, successful. I can now not have to go to dialysis. I can finally start going back on and feeling like I just wanted to be normal again. I wanted to make amends to all the nonsense and the horrible, unforgivable things that I did to people and in the situations that I caused when I was in active addiction. So, and some people would be like, well, you haven't been sober that long. Well, yes, I have. Yes, I have, because it's been before the liver transplant. It was like months and months. So it's been almost 2 years clean now, no alcohol at all. But the scary / interesting / unfortunate aspect of addiction and alcohol is that, yes, they can put a different organ in your body, and you can be so grateful for that, as you should be, but it doesn't fix what's upstairs, what's up in here. So the better you feel, especially the better you feel, the more you're like, oh man, like you're looking around, like wherever you are, you're at a ball game or whatever, and you see someone with like, double fisting like 2 big Bud Lights or whatever, and you're like, damn, that looks good on a hot summer day like right now.
I got a fresh liver. So, I got a fresh kidney. Let's
go.
I got
a fresh liver. I'm like, let's go. And they say if they well, it's the doctors are really smart. So after you get an organ transplant, you have to get blood labs like so frequent. Like I have to get them twice a week. Mm-hmm. So in those labs, they can just immediately see if you ever drink. So having that is a nice little thing in my back pocket, and a nice little tool shed to know that like I'm always being watched. So that holds me accountable. But it's not just that. It's who I am now. Like I'm a different person. I am just so lucky to be here still. Like I just can't believe I didn't see it. But the thing about what sobriety means to me now, I'm just so happy that I'm still here. I'm so grateful. I cannot believe that it took me 38 years of life to figure this all out. And I was so just stupid and naive and selfish and dumb and in denial and all these like horrible things that you would associate with being, depressed. And I was depressed. I was on, some antidepressant meds for a while. And I just can't say like enough about how important it is to see those warning signs that I talked about earlier and really be intentional and be and mindful of like, okay, if this is an issue now, mm-hmm. what is it going to look like in say 5 months, 1 year, 2 years, if you're lucky, if you're hitting it as hard as I was? What will it look like? Well, luckily you have me, audience, to look at and be like, well, I don't want to go through that because that sounded pretty horrible, right? That sounded miserable, what he was just talking about and had to go through. So, mm-hmm. And I, I'm sure that I affected my, how long I'll live. I'm sure I won't live as long as I probably would have if this never happened. And organ rejection can happen a month after transplant, or it can happen a lot of the times like years, sometimes decades later. It does not matter. It doesn't choose, when it's going to reject. It just does. And you're always going to be on these anti-rejection medications. They call them immunosuppressant drugs, and they're very hard on your body. Mm-hmm. They give you crazy mood swings. You don't want to eat. Then you do want to eat, and you eat too much. So it's just like you're constantly in flux with your emotions and everything. And on top of that, this is something I really want to mention too, is some people might be listening to this and thinking, "Wow, what a lucky American guy who lives in a pretty affluent area of in the Boston, New England's pretty well off community. Like how lucky! It must be nice, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I am lucky. You're right. But at the same time, I live with the grief of two people had to die. Two people had to die just so I could continue living. Do you really think that I'm going to not take that lightly? And I don't. I take it completely serious.
Well,
So what I
hang on
do,
now. They didn't die. I hope they didn't die just so that you could live. They died anyways. Like they passed on, and you were able
you know,
to use parts of them to continue living,
right?
right?
Yes, that's a fact. That's a fact.
Okay.
They died,
Okay. Okay,
and
good.
they don't tell they no, that's a fact. You're right, and they don't. And the thing is, they don't even tell you how they died. They don't disclose because of HIPAA. They don't disclose anything to you. So
Yeah.
the only thing I knew from my donor was she was a female and she was 10 years younger than me. That's it.
Mhm.
So and then the kidney transplant donor, I believe, was younger than me as well, but a man from like Pennsylvania. I think that was it. So that's all I
Yeah.
tell you. So I live now with this immense guilt. It's like survivor's remorse, they call it. So you feel so happy to be alive, and you're going about your day, and you have a smile on your face, and you're looking at the sun, and you're smelling the flowers and everything, so to speak.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden, this heavy, just like thought just comes into your head, like two people died, and you're living with their organs. You better treat them well. And I
Yeah.
do. I have this thing. I have a whole different way I wake up in the morning. I get up. I immediately chug like a whole thing of water. Get the digestion circuits going in the way they should be. I make sure I get sunlight right away. I have it's kind of corny, but it's really practical and it works really well. I have a gratitude journal, so I
Mhm.
get up, I set my intentions, I write what I'm grateful for that day. I'm grateful to be alive. I'm grateful to have air in my lungs. I'm grateful to not be addicted to alcohol anymore to the extent where it's just all consuming, all everything.
Mhm.
I'm grateful that my wife didn't leave me. I'm grateful that she not only didn't leave me, she was the most supportive person I've ever come across in my life. And on top of this, she went sober with me. Right when I woke up. So, because I made I go on our marriage, I will never drink again. I promise you. And she could tell I meant it because I really honestly authentically meant it.
Mhm.
So she went sober with me, and that just makes everything way easier because there's no alcohol in our apartment, and because when you're bombed and when you're drunk, there's so much you miss. Like I look back at it, and it's really sad, it's really depressing when you look back at your life, and everyone's going to have regrets, but when you have a regret that lasted a decade and change, you really, that's a big regret because that's a huge chunk of my the prime years of my life that I kind of threw out the window for a selfish reason of just simply not feeling good, not liking who I am as a person, and knowing that I had to do the work and put the work in to get to where I am today. And that's what I'm saying. If you just put the work in an honest, authentic, mindful way, and make it a daily practice, like I was saying with the gratitude journals,
Mhm.
calling loved ones and just saying, "Hey, I miss you. I love you." I just want you to know that. And it's funny. They're almost like little freakouts. I call them love bombs.
Mhm.
I'll like love bomb someone. Like, "Hey, man, I love you." Like, we don't really say that around here that much, so it's kind of awkward, but what I noticed is like when I'm walking away from someone and I say I love them to someone,
Yeah.
like there's always like a little smirk, a little like happy, like it makes it feels good.
Yeah.
It feels good to
Yeah.
like kind of get say those kind of things and appreciate the people around you that you love.
Yeah.
And so I've been doing that more often. I've been like getting exercise. I've been working out. I've been like eating better. Like I was 240 pounds of just fluid, just booze, just all consuming.
Yeah.
And now I'm now down to like 185, I think, the other day.
Yeah.
So it's pretty good.
So
That's like what I was in like high school. So
let's take a quick break here. I'm going to read off today's sponsors, and then there's a few more questions I have for you. So just hold tight,
yeah,
and we'll get right
yeah,
back at it.
go for it.
Okay, EHN Canada is Canada's leading provider of mental health and addiction services, providing evidence-based and medically assisted care with 1-year wraparound services for those suffering from substance use disorder. To learn more, find their link in the show notes below. Métis Nation Saskatchewan has announced its path for the pursuit of self-government. As an MNS citizen, I am proud to see my government fight to protect my rights. This is our moment. To learn more about the treaty and our path to self-government, go to ourmoment.ca. Pine Lodge, the treatment center I went to 7 years ago when I got sober, offers inpatient addictions treatment and aftercare programming in Regina, Saskatchewan. To inquire about services or make a donation, call 306-510-1891. Wellness News, Choice for Healthy Living, is a local resource that works to connect people to health and wellness-related products, services, and expert advice from industry professionals, locally allowing us to connect and engage. Check out wellnessnews.ca or skwellnesshub.ca today to learn more. To make contact or learn more about today's sponsors, to check out our merch, or if you want to show us some love and buy us a coffee, all of those links are also in the show notes below.
Good job.
Thanks. So I'm interested to know more about your time in the hospital when you seemingly started to rebuild relationships with the people around you, like your partner at the time, your parents, whatever support systems you may have also had. A lot of people, and you did mention talking about, gratitude lists and daily affirmations and love bombing and all of the things. What did that look like when you first entered the hospital and the doctor says, knock it off or you're going to die. You need all of these transplants and everything. Like, tell us about what was going on up here during that. Now, you've talked to us about the physical side of it. Let's hear about what you went through up here that kept you sober, because it seemed like nothing was going to keep you sober.
It was just like balancing act of, okay, now I'm in the hospital. I can't go. I have to get sober. And this is it now. Just live with it. You have to live with it. You have to be intentional about it, because if you aren't intentional about your sobriety, it's going to fall off. So you have to keep tabs on yourself. You have to be present, aware, mindful. You have to consistently put out healthy intentions and habits and routines every single day, because if you don't keep up with those, it's so easy to fall right back into it. And I find myself, even still, after everything I went through, there are those cravings. They do pop up. It's not like they just disappear forever. That is just a lie if someone tells you that. It gets more manageable and it's easier to kind of maintain. In when you're intentional about your, not drinking today. I actually mentioned this before. I don't know if it was here, but I have this really great system where when I have those feelings come up and I really want to drink, what I tell myself is, you know what? I'm just not going to drink today, though. Like, just not going to drink today. And it's weird what that does to your body. It like tricks your brain into thinking, okay, well, I cannot do today. What's today? It's already 4:00, whatever. Okay, that's just a few more hours, and then I didn't drink. And then all of a sudden, the next day, when you have a craving or whatever, and you're like, oh, that'd be good, but you know what? No, I'm just not going to drink today. And then you just, don't drink. And then all of a sudden a week goes by and you're like, I won't drink today. And then next thing you know, you have momentum, and momentum is like so key. It's like, if you don't have momentum and if you're not working on something to get better at, like if you're not, I think I heard this somewhere, maybe it might have been like a Jordan Peterson podcast or something, but he's like, once you get sober, that's great. Kudos to you, like clap, clap, clap. But you need to have some kind of project. You need to have like something that excites you to the point where all the, because that's basically what addiction is. It's like you're not feeling good about yourself. You hate who you are, and you're lost completely with the substance abuse. So, and it's a lot of that you can attribute to just not having a passion or something that to look forward to in a genuine way. So now I just have projects, like I'm doing this right now. I actually had an interview this morning for a teaching gig that I love. I love what I'd be teaching in this next chapter of my career. And I finally passed that test to become the teacher that I am today. It was extremely hard, but I was sober, so I sat down, studied the books, passed. Boom. That's pretty simple. But when you're in addiction, you can't see those kind of things. So you just have to be mindful, super appreciative, super grateful. Just constantly remind yourself, like whether it be just like something that you wear. Like I always wear this. It says "Donate Life" or "Donate Vida," however language you want to read it. And every time I look down and see that, I just think, like, look where you were, Will, and look where you are now, man. Like you're thriving. My relationships have gotten better. My family, they all take me, a little more serious now, and they're forgiving of everything I had to go through. Because my dad was, he was a heavy drinker, so it's definitely in my family. I know that. Knowing that you're not alone, that's a big one. Knowing that, because it's so, it's embarrassing to admit. It's unfortunately we live in a society where asking for help for some reason is really hard, and it's everyone's struggling, whether it be alcohol or just like eating too much, or being nasty to like their wife or their spouse, whatever. Everyone's struggling in some way or another. It's just having the courage and the confidence to authentically and genuinely ask for help in a meaningful way is the only way you're actually going to get something out of it, right? So do that. Ask for help. You won't be looked at any different. If anything, you'll be looked at in a way that's shows humility of all attributes that you can have. It shows that you're introspective. You're willing to change. Anyone that would ever ask me for help, I would never look at them as a weak person. I would look at them as a strong person, because they have the willpower to be like, no, this is wrong. This is bad for me. It's bad for everything around me. So I'm willing to change that. So as long as you're aware of it, and you're aware of like what you're doing on a daily basis, and being like intentional about writing down like, okay, I had like, I messed up last night, but not beating yourself up over it. Because when you beat yourself up over it, it's really easy to just give in and give up. But when you slip up, say, and you and then you start the next day with the same kind of healthy routines and habits that we talked about earlier, then that's only a recipe for success. And that's where my life is now. I've completely, did a 180 from being this like loser, low life. I'm being a little harsh on myself, but a lot of these things are true. Just an unreliable friend, all these things, and now I know what that feels like, and I never want to feel those feelings anymore. So I do everything the opposite of how I used to do them. There's all these little tricks and tips that I can keep going on and on that help me, but in the sake of time, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Where can people find you?
So my Instagram handle is Gordo, Gordo, Bombay. And there's other I'm actually getting myself out there more, like I'm doing this right now. So I'm slowly getting like the equipment and things to actually maybe on my own start a podcast, and just like maybe be able to help people out in any way I can, because I know I have the experience. I have the information that you need to learn these things, to make sure you do not fall down the path that I did, because it's really scary. And when someone tells you have 2 weeks left of your life, that is not a cliche thing. Your life flashes before your eyes, and you start thinking, what are the good things I did and what are the bad? And then you process it in a way where you're like, well, I think there's actually a little bit more good than there is bad. And I promise you that there is more good than bad. That's just there is. Mm-hmm. I just know that, because I had to do a personal inventory on myself, and I found that there were all those long nights in addiction. And you think about this kind of stuff, I had to do those personal inventories, continually and consistently every single night, to the point where I could live with myself. And now I can live with myself. I live with myself healthier and more present than I've ever been in my life.
Yeah. Thanks for joining me.
Well, I have a million more stories, a million more bad things. Some of them are really funny, actually, believe it or not. So maybe I'll save that for another podcast,
Yeah. Take care.
Take care.
Okay, if you got something out of that, please hit that like button at the bottom of the screen. If you're not already subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. We publish twice a week. We do our best to anyways. And we want to hear your thoughts. So if you heard something you liked, or something you didn't like, or something you'd like to learn, leave us a comment in the comment section below. We're here to foster productive conversations about substance use, and we can't do that alone. And that's all I got for you today. So thanks so much, and take care.
Say, this is Hard Knocks Talks.